in collaboration with the Cyprus Mail. This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
Coming up on this week's programme, the Observatory of the Third Age recommends employing carers in geriatric wards of hospitals where there have been numerous complaints about the treatment of elderly patients.
Caregivers play a vital role in providing care and support to patients, especially those who require extra attention and assistance.
This weekend, there's an event in the centre of Nicosia to make people more aware about the misuse of antibiotics and the prevalence of antimicrobial resistance.
We are among the top, unfortunately, and it's a problem both with our everyday use but also with our farm.
And on a lighter note, you can go along to this weekend's Cactus and Succulents exhibition. It's a great way to save water in the Cyprus garden.
The flowers of the cacti is something out of this world. Whatever color you may think, they produce. Small, big, strange, weird, beautiful.
We've spoken before on the programme about the care, or perhaps lack of it, offered to our ageing population. Joining us once again following a press conference last week is the president of the Cyprus Third Age Observatory, and he is Dimos Antoniou. Dimos, tell me a little bit about last week's press conference. Quite a lot of very worrying things came out of it, didn't they?
Yes, this is something new, Rosie, because we had very many complaints in the past regarding the behavior of the medical staff in public and private hospitals. So that's not new for us, but we are getting worried because these, let's say, complaints are increasing every month. For example, the Observatory of the Patients Association received in February 44 complaints, and in March another 50. So the number is getting a bit bigger. So we're quite worried and upset about this.
What sort of complaints came in?
Well, it's a matter of neglect. Let's say sometimes nurses may ignore the needs of let's say older patients, including their physical, emotional, and let's say psychological needs. Age discrimination against older patients, and sometimes lack of empathy or failing to understand their concerns, or they don't show compassion or inappropriate behavior. So mainly these are the complaints that we are receiving.
Now, it's worrying that the numbers are going up as fast as they are, but then I presume that also the number of patients is also going up as our population gets older.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And we are talking, Rosie, about the vast majority of the medical staff. They're doing an excellent job. It's just a mere group of people that they demonstrate such behaviors. So just to be clear, yes, as the aging population is growing rapidly, and in some decades they will be the 1/3 of the population in Cyprus. We need to take action in hospitals and create geriatric wards as in the rest of the world. So with geriatrists, gerontologists, nurses and carers that they will be specially trained for treating patients of the third age and all this stuff. It will take a decade to do that, but we need to take actions today.
I wanted to ask you about training, because surely as part of any nurse or doctor's training, there is somewhere in there about care for elderly people, particularly those with things like dementia.
Yes, we are from, let's say from 2018, we are training caregivers, home caregivers, in the anthropocentric model of care. So we have trained more than 450 home carers. So the same program we are proposing to the government to do it in hospitals and all over the public sector, because it's a special training program that has communication approaches, how to speak to older persons, how to administer them, how to provide emotional support, among other things. So our position is that we need to train everyone in the healthcare sector in the anthropocentric model of care, despite all the rest. This is something that has to be done today.
What did the government say when you brought up all these particular problems?
We are discussing things. It's not, let's say, black and white, because since June 2022, we gathered around 60 to 70 professionals that are in the healthcare sector and scientists trying to set up the national strategy for the health of elderly people. So we have concluded 70 proposals to the government for healthy, active and dignified aging. And the training of everyone in the healthcare sector on the anthropocentric model is in the proposal. So we are waiting from the Minister of Health to take this national strategy to the Ministers' Council to approve it and move forward. So that's it basically. So it will take a period of 3 to 5 years to implement all of these proposals, but at least we have something to build on.
But in the meantime, is it not possible for nurses in our public hospitals to be given short training courses on how to improve the care that they give elderly people? I'm thinking not just about those with dementia, which we know can be very challenging and I'm sure exhausting for the carers, but things like making sure that they are properly hydrated, that they're having a sip of water every few hours and so on and so forth. It's very basic stuff.
I know. We will have a meeting with the Federation of Nurses, the Cyprus Federation of Nurses. So we're going to exchange ideas. We're going to propose our training programs, and let's see. They are willing. They are willing, and they are able to do stuff. So I'm pretty positive that and optimistic that after our meeting we will have something to announce.
Well, we hope so, because these stories we've heard of patients being tied to their hospital beds, I presume that's to make life easier for the nurses. I mean, that's just not on.
Yes, this is true. And, we support that caregivers for patients should be employed in hospitals apart from the nurses, because caregivers play a vital role in providing care and support to patients, especially those who require extra attention and assistance. And that will help they will help to alleviate the workload of nurses and other medical staff, and to allowing them to focus on providing more specialized care for patients. So our position, and we said that to the minister, that we're going to support caregivers to enter into the public hospitals as permanent staff.
Right, now let's just move on if we may, because I also saw a story in the paper last week about the Pensioners Association saying that a lot of medications and care that's needed by elderly people is not offered on our National Health Service. So, for example, podiatrists. I think everybody knows, if they've ever cared for an elderly parent, that they can't cut their own toenails because they can't bend down to reach them, for example, and they often have problems with their feet. Surely that's a very basic thing that might keep patients out of hospitals.
Yes. I don't know if you know it, but there is the Cyprus Third Age Council. which was set up by the Council of Ministers in 2018. And the members of this council, they are organizations that they deal with all the people. So we have a board meeting on the 16th of May, and in our agenda is exactly this subject that you mentioned. And we are going to take critical decisions and propose to the government to change the way they see the elderly, because this is purely age discrimination. This is age discrimination, and it's not acceptable. So we're going to discuss this on the 16th. So we will have a common statement and proposal to the government to alleviate this and solve this problem.
We know that a lot of old people are among the most vulnerable financially because pensions aren't exactly huge, are they? The other thing that came out of that meeting that I was talking about, or the initiative by the Pensioners Association, is the fact that a lot of the over-the-counter medicines that the elderly use much more frequently than the average person probably, like cough syrup or vitamins or so on, these are very often preventable medicines. If you're taking good supply of vitamins, you're less likely, I presume, as you age, to get ill. So why aren't these things allowed to be sold at a cheaper price to pensioners?
Yeah, this is the issue I'm talking about. This is what we need the government to think about this population group. It's not the characteristics and the needs of elderly people has nothing to do with the younger population. We need to take care of them. We need to have medicines for prevention. So you're absolutely right, and it's one of the things that we will be discussing. Our position is that yes, they need to support and they need to lower or even give free this medication, because they will not have so many elderly people in hospitals after all.
Well, of course, we don't seem here in Cyprus to look at the advantages of prevention rather than treatment, do we?
Yes, exactly. And this is what we need to recognize the problem. We need to recognize that, yes, prevention makes miracles. Is that, we have a memory center here in Limassol, where our members come 3 times a week, and we have cognitive enhancement exercises. We have music therapy, gymnastics for specially designed for elderly people. We have dance therapy, etc. And you see that most of the members that they enjoy these services, their life changed completely. They are stress-free. Their doctors reduced their medication. It's unbelievable what has happened in only 6 months. So imagine if we had prevention medication, what will happen in the future?
Yeah, and we should also, or perhaps you should also at your meeting, point out to the government that prevention is very much cheaper than cure.
Yes, exactly.
We'll wait to see what happens after your meeting, but it does seem that we need to get our act together faster because, as I said at the beginning, everybody's population is ageing, and the percentage of people falling into this category in the next 20 years is going to multiply exponentially. And if we haven't got the systems in place, we're going to have big problems.
And the life expectancy, I mean, it's increasing now. It's 84.5 for women and 81 for men. And this is increasing, I mean, in a few years, someone that is 70 years old, we say that he's young. So, yes, we need to take that into consideration, and for the government to consider that an aging population puts a lot of pressure on healthcare systems, on the public spending, and all that, and in the society as well.
But we also need to bear in mind that as 70-year-olds become, as you just said, young, they can also be encouraged to have perhaps part-time jobs. They can join the workforce. They can still contribute to society in a way that many younger people can't.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And recently we became a partner in a European program together with another 11 partners from all over Europe in a program called Mentoring Across Borders. It's mentoring of older people to young marginalized students or youngsters that they didn't have the chance to go to college or university. And they need not only support and to share knowledge, but they need psychological support as well. And what a better way for an older man that has, or a woman that has the experience, has the knowledge to mentor young people and see their progress in the years to come.
Well, and just the social interaction, Dimos, of older people with younger people can be absolutely miraculous, can't it? We need to, I think, get our act together to make sure that these people who've contributed all their lives to our society are not sort of dumped when they reach a certain age. I wish you the best of luck with the work you're doing, and many thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Rose. Thank you very much.
That's Dimos Antoniou, who is the president of the Cyprus Third Age Observatory.
This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
Tomorrow afternoon in the centre of Nicosia, the University of Cyprus, in collaboration with the junior and senior schools, is organising an event on fighting microbial resistance together. Joining us is the science teacher from the senior school, Melina Chrysostomou. Melina, you're getting the students, I think, at the schools very much involved in this. So tell me what they will be doing, because it is something that young people probably don't very often think about.
Yes, actually, when we started this, to be honest, most of our students didn't even know this was a problem. They hadn't even heard about it before, which is the main issue because people just don't know about it. So what we've been doing since September is we've been educating our students so that they can go out and share the knowledge and educate people within the community. So this program is called Multipliers because we have to multiply our knowledge out. So the students have been working with the University of Cyprus. They went to the biobank and looked at culturing bacteria. They were able to look at different research that they do there. And through that, they started to make their own posters, they made flyers, all of this different media that we're going to be showing on Saturday during our event. They've also created surveys that they've already distributed to the community within our little community in school. And of course, we will be showing what we found out, but we also want to survey, the bigger community, so the whole of Nicosia, whoever is able to come and join us. So that's what we have so far.
Okay, now tell us a little bit about how you've put this into the science classes at the school to explain this, because we always assume science is about other things and not necessarily about health that affects us all.
Yeah, so really, our school, we really try to incorporate these things in our lessons because it's important for them to realize that science is everywhere, and even if they don't want to follow a science path, these things are still important for them to know, to discuss, okay, because they're part of our life. So we try to incorporate real life scenarios anyway in our classes, but this was actually brought to us by the University of Cyprus, and what we did was we chose this specific year group, which is the second year of gymnasium, which have a topic in biology where we talk about microbes and antibiotics. We talk about vaccines. There's lots of different things that we talk about. We talk about the ethical issues. We touch up on everything. And when the University of Cyprus came to us with this, we thought it was great because now we can actually do something more about it. So what we did was we pre-planned the year. I mean, it took a lot of work, but when you want to do something, you get it to work, right? So we planned the year. We had set weeks or set lessons that we said we're going to focus on this. We had different activities, different school trips for them, tried to keep them engaged throughout the year, and we just embedded it into our program. Of course, this is something that we can do with the younger kids with gymnasium because they don't have exams. This is more difficult to do later because, our older students have external exams from the UK. But if we can get them interested in this from a younger age, and we can actually get them educated from a younger age, then they can go on and do these things on their own later. They don't have to, wait for us to bring this topic to them. They start to research, they start to find out themselves, and they come up with solutions. They're great at coming up with solutions.
And I imagine that they're also educating their parents, because an awful lot of parents were brought up in the age of antibiotics. We have a huge problem here, don't we? I think Cyprus uses more antibiotics than almost any other European country.
Yes, we are among the top, unfortunately. And it's a problem both with our everyday use, but also with our farms. So you've probably heard your friends, whenever they get a little bit sick, that they say, oh, I'm going to take antibiotics now to make me feel better before I get worse, or something like that, which is the worst thing to do. I've heard of people demand from doctors that they give them antibiotics, which is it's ridiculous, right? So we're going to have experts there. We will have doctors, microbiologists. We will have people there that can, discuss these things with us and educate the people there on when should we actually take antibiotics. Is it really necessary? So we need to teach them antibiotics are used for bacterial infections and not for viruses. So just because someone has a little cough or has a little bit of fever from their virus, it doesn't mean that they should take antibiotics, because actually it's not going to help them.
No, we've covered this many times on this programme with experts, and I know that the law has changed and you can no longer get antibiotics over the counter at the pharmacy without a prescription. It is supposedly getting better, but people do need to know about it. I'm fascinated to know what the human library is going to entail. I know that's people talking to library books, in a sense, who are other people, but who are going to be the books?
The whole point of it is to get a discussion going, and it's not only for us to educate others, but we want to even get more information from the actual experts. So our experts, the books, are the microbiologists, the doctors, the pharmacists. We've invited all sorts of people within this department, and we want to question them. We want to have discussions with them. So our students have prepared their own questions, they're prepared discussions they want to have with them. They will be interviewed. We will have them play some of our games. So we want to have a whole community, interaction where even other people, the guests that pass by, can come and listen to them. They can question the experts, the human library. So we just want to get conversation going, really. We want them to interact. We want our students to interact with them and the guests.
Well, it sounds as if it's going to be great benefit, not just to the students, but to their families and anybody else who happens to be in Eleftheria Square on Saturday the 13th, that's tomorrow, between 4 and 6 p.m. You can get a chance to talk to those experts who will be playing the part of library books, and it's all about antimicrobial resistance awareness. It's run in conjunction, I believe, with the European Research Programme Multiplayers Partnership to ensure meaningful engagement with science and society. I wish you the very best of luck, Melina. It sounds like it's fascinating.
You. We're going to have food. We're going to have lots of things going on. So I really hope people will come by.
I'm sure they will. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
So that is Melina Chrysostomou, the science teacher at the senior school, and she's inviting you down to Eleftheria Square tomorrow afternoon between 4 and 6 p.m. This Sunday, meanwhile, sees the return of the Cacti and Succulents exhibition. This is their 14th show after a few years missed due to the COVID pandemic. And when I spoke to Loria Philaktis, one of the board members, I asked her whether or not everybody'd managed to keep in touch during lockdown.
We kind of kept together visiting each other whenever it was possible. But otherwise, we were very dormant, let's say.
Okay, but the point is that you've all been able to look after your plants during that time. I think a lot of people took up gardening, didn't they, while we were all supposed to be at home? Have you got lots of new members who have discovered gardening and succulents and cacti as a result of being stuck at home?
No, not really. We've had a few, but not many. Usually we get more people enrolling in the club, let's say, during the exhibition.
What would you say to somebody who is thinking, not very keen on these sorts of plants? What sort of thing can you say that makes them have another look?
Well, cacti, first of all, are architectural plants. Even if they don't have flowers, they are very interesting plants. Succulents are more green and don't have thorns for people that don't like thorns. And the flowers of the cacti is something out of this world. Whatever color you may think, they produce. Small, big, strange, weird, beautiful. Some are called the orchids of the desert, some of the plants, and some have a beautiful smell, aroma, some have disgusting aroma. And the reason why they have this dead meat aroma is because they grow in a place that they don't get bees or butterflies to do the pollination.
Yeah, so they attract all sorts of nasty flies and things, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
They attract flies.
So what would you say are the biggest mistakes that people make if they're, let's say, given a cactus or a succulent as a present?
The biggest mistake, I think, is treating them like any other house plants or garden plants. They give them too much water and too rich soil. Cacti especially need not very rich soil.
So sandy soil, do you add sand into the soil you plot them in?
Not necessarily, but it has to be very porous, so they get good drainage if you give them more than the water they need.
And I don't suppose they need feeding very much either, do they? What about rest periods?
Well,
because
I don't feed mine. Some people do, but I don't feed mine at all.
And rest periods? Most plants do like to have a rest period after flowering. Does that apply to these plants too?
Especially to this. Cacti, for my cacti, I don't give any water at all during the winter months. So they are much easier to look after than a lot of plants. I start giving them as the temperatures rise, let's say over 20 or over 20 usually. And I stop when the temperatures at night drop below 10.
Okay, but then how much water do you give at a time? It's only about once every 2 or 3 weeks, isn't it?
Yes, I give them, at the height of summer, I give them once a week. Succulents may need twice a week.
So there is a difference, and people often don't know the difference, but they'll find out if they come down to your exhibition. I know I've been to some of the earlier ones, and the array of plants are amazing, apart from the actual exhibition, and I think there are judging as well of the best plants and so on.
We have our judge on Saturday. Everybody sees the plants on the Sunday.
Right, and you've in the past had other events going on as well, like stalls where people can buy these plants?
5 stores usually there that sell nowadays very good collections of plants, of cacti and succulents only. for safe.
So they're the experts, and I'm sure they can give advice. Gloria, it's been a pleasure talking to you. We'll send people down to the Acropolis Park on Sunday between 10 in the morning and 7 p.m. for your 14th exhibition of cacti and other succulents. Many thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much.
Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.